Long before Saint Nicholas became the legendary figure we now call Santa Claus, he was a humble bishop in a time of crisis. In the city of Myra, now part of modern-day Turkey, people knew him not for gifts or celebrations, but for his deep compassion, his courage, and the miracles that flowed from his faith. One of the most extraordinary of these happened during a terrible famine, the miracle of the endless grain. It was the 4th century, and Myra was facing one of the worst food shortages in its history. The fields had dried, the harvest had failed, and the people were starving. Families searched desperately for food, and the poor especially suffered, unable to find even a handful of wheat to make bread. Saint Nicholas, as bishop of the city, carried the weight of their suffering on his heart. He saw hunger not only as a physical pain, but as a wound to the soul. Every day, people came to him begging for help. And though the church's stores were almost empty, he never stopped praying for a solution. One day, news reached him that a ship had docked in the nearby port, carrying a large cargo of wheat. The grain was bound for the imperial storehouses of Constantinople, but Nicholas felt a stirring in his heart. He went down to the port to meet the sailors and asked them to give some of their cargo to the starving people of Myra. The sailors refused at first. The grain was not theirs to give, they said. It had been carefully measured and recorded for the emperor, and if any amount was missing when they arrived, they would be punished. Nicholas smiled and replied with calm certainty, "Do not fear. If you share even a small part with those who are starving, the Lord will see to it that not a single grain will be missing from your cargo when you reach Constantinople." The sailors hesitated, but something in his voice, the quiet authority of holiness, moved them to trust. They opened their holds and began to unload sacks of wheat, enough to fill the city's stores. The people rejoiced, and Nicholas oversaw the distribution himself, ensuring that no one was left hungry. The wheat was measured carefully, and everyone knew exactly how much had been taken. The sailors then set sail again, anxious to see what would happen when they arrived in the imperial capital. When they reached Constantinople, they went straight to the imperial officials, trembling as the stores were opened and the grain was measured. To their astonishment, not a single grain was missing. The amount was exactly the same as when they had left. The sailors spread the story throughout the empire, how the holy bishop of Myra had worked a miracle, feeding thousands without taking anything from the emperor. Back in Myra, the grain Nicholas had received did more than feed the people for a few days. It lasted for years. It provided enough food not only to end the famine, but to plant new crops and rebuild the community. For Nicholas, this miracle was not about showing power, but about showing love. He saw in every hungry person the face of Christ. He believed that faith is not proven by words alone, but by action, by sharing what we have and trusting that God will multiply it. This event reveals who Saint Nicholas truly was, a man of deep generosity, faith, and courage. He did not wait for wealth or abundance to act. He gave in the middle of scarcity, believing that God's mercy never runs out, just like the grain in that miracle. Centuries later, when people began to tell stories of Saint Nicholas, they remembered his compassion more than anything else. They told how he helped the poor, how he saved young women from despair, how he protected sailors, and how he fed the hungry. His spirit of giving would one day evolve into the figure of Santa Claus, but the real Nicholas was far more than a man who gave gifts. He was a man who believed that giving could reveal the presence of God. This miracle also carries a message for us today. In times of need, when the world feels like it is running out of resources, compassion, or hope, the story of Saint Nicholas reminds us that faith can multiply what we have. When we give, when we trust, when we act with love, something divine begins to happen. Perhaps the real miracle is not just the grain that never ran out, but the heart that refused to close itself in fear. Nicholas believed in divine abundance, and because of that belief, an entire city was saved. Today, his relics rest in Bari, Italy, where pilgrims still come from all over the world to honor him. But the spirit of Saint Nicholas lives wherever generosity and faith meet. His life challenges us to ask ourselves, how can we be instruments of God's providence to those who are hungry, not only for food, but for hope, for comfort, for love? The miracle of the endless grain is not just a story from the past. It is a call to live differently in the present. If this story touched you, take a moment to reflect. Who in your life is in need of help or encouragement today? A small act of kindness, offered with faith, can multiply far beyond what you imagine. And if you want to keep discovering the true stories of the saints and the miracles that changed the world, subscribe to this channel and join this journey. Every week we bring to light the forgotten wonders of faith, courage, and love that shaped Christian history. Thank you for watching, and may Saint Nicholas pray for you, that your heart, like his, may never run out of love.